going to be talking to you folks for just a few minutes, okay?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I'm glad to know that the donuts arrived before we did, so that you all can remain, satiated and focused for the day. So we'll just chat for a few minutes, and then as well, we've got Lee Willard here joining us. He came over across the bridge from our warm-up this morning, and he's our engineer who works trackside with the number 3 and 4 car Corvette racing with Clayton Pajorley this weekend. So it's an endurance race, so we bring in the 2 engineers, so each car gets their own attention. But again, my name is Sarah Robinson. I've had the great pleasure of being with Michelin for about 12 years, running a couple of different assignments during my tenure, and probably one of my greatest honors is that I was a subjective test driver for Michelin for about 6 years at our test track in South Carolina. As was Ken, actually, a little bit before I got there. Ken is, 29 years with Michelin, and our technical director for motorsports here in North America, and has done tire design work for the OE groups, and again as well being a test driver. You'll find the test drivers tend to keep finding their way to racetracks. And then Lee Willard, standing by here, he'll be taking the wheel third here as Ken and I have to run to another engagement, but he'll be answering plenty of technical questions, because Lee, aside from being one of our trackside engineers, having worked with Corvette racing for many, many years, is also the tire designer for the street tires that go on all of the Corvettes. So from the replacement tires, starting with the replacement fitments, in the C5, C6 era, to the OE tires that are now 100% fitment on the C7s rolling off the lot in Bowling Green, you have this gentleman to thank. So with that being said, we have a very special relationship with Corvette, and we always talk about competition as our ultimate laboratory. We do this not for the marketing effort, and I say that lightly because I think my title does actually have marketing in it, but truly, and I believe in this, we're here because of the technology and the hyper development that happens on the racetrack and what it allows us to do with our street tires, particularly in the Pilot family of tires. What happens here is extremely relevant, because if you can imagine, okay, holler out, what are a couple of the important, what shall we say, performances of a tire that a race car driver cares about?
Consistency.
Traction, grip, okay, so that's obvious. Anything else?
Consistency.
Endurance. Consistency. Yeah, so durability even. These guys, how many times do you think they're going to track out over the curbs like this? And Sebring is like this. So that's kind of relevant to you guys, as you might hit the occasional pothole. Some of the construction that endures that and keeps you from getting a huge bulge on the sidewall, we learned some of that stuff here. As well, the gratuitous traction is necessary to kind of leash the power that you guys have under the bonnets with all those LS generations there. So that is truly why we do this. And we're always coming up with new ideas. So as time moves on, you guys are going to hear more and more about the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. Don't dismay. It's not the end of the world, just because it'll slowly phase out the Pilot Super Sport, our beloved tire that comes, kind of standard on most of the fitments, and then the Sport Cup 2 being the elevated fitment for a little bit more track-oriented use. So in the future, you'll see the Pilot Sport 4S kind of coming into some of the new fitments, and it's got a higher level of traction in the dry, maintains a lot of that good wet. It's actually kind of reinventing the Pilot Super Sport, just as all the competitors 6 years later were starting to finally sort of almost catch the Pilot Super Sport. But the reason I bring up the Pilot Sport 4S is just because we launched it in January at Thermal Club and in Palm Springs, and I have a little story that I think you guys are going to appreciate. So we wanted to make sure that people understood that what we do here is what leads to like the hybrid belt technology of the Pilot Sport 4S, and some of the compounding technologies go into that. So we brought some of our GTLM drivers to the launch so that they had the opportunity to meet some of our influencers and our consumers that came to the launch. And we decided we wanted to bring some some of the younger generation influencers who maybe hadn't had the exposure and the experience to Michelin and the automotive industry. And we got to eat dinner with this gentleman. I sat with Tommy Milner, and then we invited one of our influencers to sit with us. Really nice guy. We hope to see him again at Mosport. He's from the Toronto area. And he was like, yeah, he's got a huge YouTube channel. And he likes cars, but he's not quite to our level yet, you know? He's like, I've got this book, and on my channel, I'm gonna make a video while I'm riding in a hot lap car of me reading the book. I'm like, okay, awesome, let's do this. And I was like, Tommy, you're taking this guy in the car tomorrow. So we put him in the car in the Z06 with Tommy Milner, and he had his book, and he had his GoPro camera there, and he said, all right, I'm gonna read this book, The Audacious Journey, and you know, like he turned on for his YouTube channel. And Tommy looks over at him, he's like, what's up? And the guy just smacks himself in the face with the book, and he's trying to read it like this. And there's few explicatives, but that was his first exposure to Corvette, to Michelin, and I said, this is golden. So I encourage you, I think his channel is called the Leviathan channel. Go on, check out his video of him riding with Tommy, and at some point about 3/4 of the lap through, it was like this. So we made a wise decision, but again, this is our goal, this is why we race. We want to introduce people every day to what we're doing, why we do it, why we love it. And I think we got a convert there, and hopefully all, I don't know, 150,000 followers that he had were like, well, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to go to a race now. But that's why we do it, the technology and then the passion. So I'm going to hand it over to Ken, who's going to go over a little bit of the technology of what we're doing today, and then as Ken and I depart, we're going to leave this scoundrel here to go deep into the tech questions, fitments, and things like that before he's got to get ready for pre-race. So ladies and gentlemen, Ken Payne. It's the Leviathan. Yeah, if you go on YouTube and do the Leviathan or do Leviathan Pilot Sport Experience, something like that, he'll pop up. I'll see if I can find the link, and when we come back for the mid-race update at 5:10, it's on the schedule. Yeah, when we do the drawing, I'll try to have the information there.
Good morning, everyone. How many of you were foolish or smart enough to have attended that little race in Daytona in January? Yeah! Awesome. Once again, it was a GTLM dogfight. The weather was a little sketchy at times, but that's another reason we like endurance racing. As Sarah said, this is our fancy science lab. This is the science lab we really like to play in. The tools we've used to develop tires here are the analytical tools Lee has used to make those cool tires for your street cars. The materials that are in your street car tires derive directly from things we've done with motorsports. And as Sarah said, it's all the performances that are relevant to the street are relevant in racing and endurance world. You have to have durability, wear, traction, ease of driving over an extended stint. And yes, it may be not the ease of driving for mere mortal drivers, but for a Tommy or a Jan or anybody in the hot seat in these cars, they're concerned about how easy the car is to manage and how well the tire works, how wide the windows are. So those are all sorts of things that we have to work on and figure out how to do in racing and translate to making a better, more durable, longer life, higher performing tire for the street. One thing that is unique to Sebring, and you'll see a hashtag flying around this weekend, respect the bumps. This place is a wee bit bumpy. People come test here prior to Le Mans because of the unique character of this track. The energy that is pounded into the tires, the suspension, and chassis here is more energy than is input into those same components over the entire 24 hours of Le Mans. So in 12 hours, we're putting more pounding and energy into the tires, into the suspension here than you would in an entire race at the 24 hours of Le Mans. So it's an incredibly demanding track that puts a premium on everything. So we like it. It's a great test opportunity for us. We also use it to develop and test our people. Lee is a volunteer. He's in the tire development world. He's learning how to work with the teams. He's done a good job with Corvette for a bloody long time now. And as are all the other engineers on pit lane. Virtually every one of them comes from some other area within Michelin, volunteers their weekend time to help us at the racetrack. It makes them better engineers and technicians for us, and they develop a working relationship with our OE partners that we race with. So it's a great win-win opportunity for us. With that, because I've got to run to another event, I'm going to turn it over to Lee. Feel free to ask him any question you would like, but don't swell his head too much. We know he's already rock star status in the Corvette world, so be kind to him. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you mid-race for an update.
Thank you, Ken. Make sure my cord doesn't get caught up on Ken's feet. That's one thing, if you're standing behind the pit wall when we're changing tires, make sure you're never standing around a loop of air hose, because when those guys go out, it's like, you know, they're a defensive end for the Chicago Bears or somewhere. They go hard, and so they will pull you. There was a Michelin guy standing on the cord yesterday, and he almost did a cartwheel. So they keep going. They don't stop. If you're standing there, you better weigh 500 pounds if you want to stop. Otherwise, it's going to take you out. But anyways, like Ken said, I'm just here to answer any questions. If you have questions, technical questions about what we're doing in the race, the compounds, you're first, sir. Or if you have questions about the street tires or street tires that we're working on for the future in all season, I can give you updates on all that stuff. Yes, sir.
I want to go to the grip walk.
The compounds that we use today are pretty resistant against heat cycling. I know when you get the top level tires, the Pilot Sport Cup, you know, the Pilot Super Sport on the C7 generation, those compounds do not get too much heat cycle. So when you're talking about heat cycle, you're speaking about heat cycling the tires so the grip improves, or because. So you're speaking of heat cycling and degrading tire performance. I know 2 decades ago, 20 years ago, you know, people used to heat cycle tires. They would shave them, make them lower tread depth, a lot of tricks trying to get higher performance. These days, and a lot of it is due to what we learned out here, we've really minimized the loss of performance when you have when you use the tire once or twice or 3 times in heat cycling. If you're driving max handling on a track. If you're driving on a street, you really don't heat cycle the tire. Anybody know what street temperature or what temperature your tire runs at when you're driving down the highway on, say, a 75-degree day? Just take your temperature. It's right about 98.6. Right, just remember body temperature. That's what the temperature of the air inside the tire and most of the rubber is going to be. It's like 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's not too bad. When you're talking about real track temperatures that can affect the molecular structure and the cross links and the things that make the rubber really, you know, hold up well, you're talking 230, 210 degrees. So don't worry about the street. Now, when you drive the car on the street and it wears, that can affect performance. Sometimes if your tread depth gets too low, there's not enough rubber to squish to work to generate heat to develop more grip. So you have to be cognizant of that. Low tread wear, sometimes you don't get enough heat in the tire. Age, if you're driving on the street for 6 years, as soon as that tire comes out of the press, you know, it's going to start losing a little bit of its performance over the years. Now, for most of the people, it's going to be really hard to see that. You know, it's real consistent. Again, a lot of the consistency, the same consistency that we work on for the tires out here, we put that into the street tires. So I wouldn't worry too much about the street, to make a short answer. There was someone right here. Yes, sir.
Reading the Corvette over back in the 50s.
question. The
dealers don't even understand.
Right. The question is, in the 30 years ago, you would have. We always speak about, even 20, 15, maybe even 10 years ago, we always speak about 30 seconds. Lots of times now, I'm always talking about millimeters. They're not exactly the same thing, but they're real close. But now, if you look at the tread depths on our tires today, they're pretty shallow. And why do we do that? Because we can get a lot better wear. We have a lot better compounds. We have a lot better understanding of the mechanics of the tire and the contact patch, how to minimize the scrub. The old bias tires of the 50s and 60s, they wore out fast at 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 miles, because every time you went through the contact patch, this is the contact patch, it goes around. Every time it went through the ground, because of the bias nature of the tire, it would do this and then come back around and do this. Radial tires, they go around smooth. And so we can use less tread depth, we have better compounds, we have better understanding of tire mechanics, better understanding of the fluid dynamics to control wet traction, to improve wet traction. We have lower tread depth, that means we can trade that off for more steering precision. Lower tread depth, more steering precision, generate higher cornering forces. The Corvette of the C7 Z07 package today with Pilot Sport cups has just below about 4.5 millimeters of tread depth, 5 30 seconds, and it pulls 1.2 Gs. The tires in the 50s and 60s, 0.7 Gs, 0.6 Gs maybe. So that's where you go into lower tread depth. The compounds last longer, wet traction is better than the old days. You can corner and handle a lot better, a lot higher performance. It also makes lower rolling resistance, which is important for fuel economy. And then in the future, I think there'll be regulations in the United States about rolling resistance of tires. I know in Europe right now you have to meet certain regulatory levels for rolling resistance. So if you have a lot of tread depth, that makes a lot more rolling resistance. Back there, yes sir.
Question about the lifetime of the tire. A lot of us don't put a lot of miles in our cars, and what should we be looking at to replace the tire?
The industry standard is that you're supposed to have a new tires in 7 years. That's industry recommendation. I'll make a confession. I have a 1971 Triumph TR6. It has tires from 1996 still on it. And I drive, sorry, I have to confess, I use tires after their age date, but I still drive it to the post office sometimes, but that's what I do it. If you're a track person, you might wear your tires out, in a summer, and that keeps you in good alignment with that industry recommendation. But, if you don't put a lot of miles on your tires and you find yourself with a 6, 7, 8-year-old tire, it's not going to be damaged or cause harm just because you drive it down the road, but be careful going to the track. Yes, sir. That's a good point.
They've been coming out of here 3 years ago.
Yeah, you had some tread come off a tire? Or?
It just came apart, going home. My list are done, big tires been with the 13 years old.
So you had fender damage, and yeah. Sorry that happened. That's another reason why to keep vigilant on your. Thank you, sir. I was going to ask you in private afterwards. I was going to say, what kind of tire was that? I'm very interested. We do a lot of stuff to make sure that doesn't happen. Good point. Really good point. First one back there. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any visibility on all seasons is 285, 335 side. Thank you.
285, 335.
Transport Z06.
Yep. Transport Z06 is on our development schedule. Right. The next build we're working on is for the C6 Z06 in Grand Sport. I think that the C6 and that's 275, 3518, 325, 3019. Those tires should be out this fall and ready for the next season, if not sooner. We've been doing all the computer stuff, and we got some prototypes that we're building in the shop maybe about another month. And then and they're kind of stacked together, but the C7s, the 06 Grand Sport, should start this year as well. Second one, yes sir.
Right down that same road, regular tires.
Yeah, that's we're going to start working on that this year as well too. So the C7 or the C6, we'll start working on those. Both those are in the plan. Yes, sir.
You're talking about the 7-year life cycle. The 7-year life cycle of replacement tires.
Yes.
Does ground level ozone accelerate that rate? I live in Los Angeles. We have a higher ground level ozone. I've noticed that the tires, Michelin, Bill Rich, doesn't seem to matter. Sidewalls start to crack about 3 years out.
Okay. Yes, that's sure. What the question was for the 7-year tire life recommendation. How does ground level ozone affect that? We still recommend that same. We have one recommendation for the whole industry, so that's all tire brands. At Michelin, we tried to add compounds into the sidewall protector rubber that will guard against that. And so I'm hoping that the Michelin tires you have probably do better than some of the competitors in regards to resisting ozone cracking. And if you have it in the sun and ozone, that makes it worse. If you have your car in the garage or in a shaded area under a carport, that'll help out a lot. But know that the rubber on the sidewall of the tire that does not get worn away has a lot of ingredients added to protect against ozone and ozone cracking. Let's get this one right here. Yes, I need to look this way. Yes, sir.
What's the name of the new tires underneath?
What the new tire that Sarah was talking about is is going into the replacement market now. It's called Pilot Sport 4S, and that she was talking about just a general overall UHP tire. We don't have any tires specifically designed in Pilot Sport 4S for Corvette yet. So the best thing to do is stick with your Pilot Super Sports that came original on your C6 or your C7. And in the future, we'll work towards bringing that. The Corvette tires are already very high performance. So I look at when they do a replacement line as they look at what we did with Corvette in the factory partnership to get ideas. Pilot Super Sport is what I use. Yes, sir. Yeah, and you need me to wrap up? Okay, what I'll do is I'll stay for a couple minutes because I know Mobil 1's coming on here, Andy, just a second. He's going to have a really great presentation, and I encourage you to listen to him, but if you want to ask a couple of questions out back, step out back and we can talk a little bit. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the race. See you.